well, I suck at this. This piece of jewellery is worth £500. I ended up just refunding anybody who asked for one, and I was in the hole. I was like, I don't want anyone to know that I'm doing this in case it goes horribly wrong. I could draw stuff. That was a talent I apparently didn't know I had. What made me do it? I'm not Italian. I have no Italian heritage whatsoever, but apparently, whatever. Shut up and end the video. Hello pals, welcome back to the channel. If you don't know me, my name is Sherelle. I'm an artist, illustrator and drinker of tea. Admittedly, quite an anemic cup of tea this morning because I used a loose leaf tea and I was too impatient to wait for it to actually brew properly, so you know. Today we are not doing a studio vlog like we normally do. We are going to do a cozy little Q&A session. So if you don't already have one, pause the video, go get yourself a brew or a coffee or whatever is your hot beverage of choice, or cold beverage even, if that's your thing. And let's do a little Q&A, shall we? I'm going to end up keep looking at my phone while I'm doing this because all the questions are saved on here. I'm going to start by saying thank you to everybody who asked me a question of the... How long have I been doing YouTube? 2 years, maybe? Is this my third Christmas? I think this is my third Christmas doing YouTube. This year. It's not Christmas now. Sorry, I made it sound like it was Christmas now. This will be my third Christmas doing YouTube. So maybe I'm just into my third year. I don't know. I need to go away and do some maths, I think, because I can't figure this out. But the point is, of all the time I've been doing YouTube, this is the first time I've done a Q&A and put out a post on Instagram and YouTube to say, I'm going to do a Q&A, who wants to ask me a question? And people have actually asked me questions. So until now, anytime I've done a Q&A, I've basically sifted back through all of my YouTube comments to find any question that I could, because I'd put up a post on Instagram and nobody wanted to ask me anything. So I'm so grateful to everybody who actually did ask me a question, because you've saved me from having to sift back through loads and loads of comments to find any questions to make this video with. So thank you so much. I'm just going to hop straight into the questions because what else is there? Question 1 comes from a good friend of mine. And the question is simply, do you wear wigs? No, I do not. If you know, you know. If you don't know, don't worry about it. Where do you get your inspiration from? Sushi to bugs and slugs to little spuds, where does it all come from? Quite honestly, I have no idea. I just draw things that I like. I like food. I like bugs. I really like sushi. Actually, I need to talk about this whole sushi thing. Because me and Lewis once went to an authentic Japanese restaurant, and I had the sushi there and I was not a fan. I'm sorry to say. I like supermarket sushi. I'm not going to lie to you, pals. I like supermarket sushi. I like cheap crap sushi with a lot of soy sauce and possibly some sriracha mayo and all the things that you're not supposed to have with sushi. So we went to this authentic sushi restaurant and they served the sushi and it's authentic. So there's no soy sauce. And I know don't ask for soy sauce. That's really rude. I ate about half of the sushi and then halfway through I got weirded out by the raw fish, even though I do not have an issue with eating raw fish at all. Halfway through, I think it was because there was salmon, tuna, trout, and something else. The something else looked exactly like the trout, and I couldn't figure out what the something else was, but it definitely wasn't trout. And then I was a bit weirded out because I was like, I don't know what I'm eating. I don't know why that weirded me out, but anyway, authentic sushi, probably actually not my thing, I'm sorry to say. The ramen though, oh my god, the ramen we had at the restaurant was amazing. I feel bad because if I want to do something, I want to do it authentically, but supermarket sushi is my jam, okay? Judge me for that, it's fine. So yeah, my inspiration just comes from things that I like. I'm a bit weird. I like some weird things. I like bugs. I mean, up here, I don't know if you can even see it. You won't be able to see it from here. I found a completely intact dead butterfly in my garden, so I taxidermied it. I'm a little bit weird, so I just draw things that I like. I guess that's kind of all there is to it. I feel like this question is, every artist in the world has been asked this question, where do you draw your inspiration from? And I feel like it's probably the same for everyone, but there's a reason it looks different for everyone. I think the thing is, you draw the inspiration from your everyday life, from what you are exposed to, and different people are living different lives. They're exposed to different things. I'm exposed to a lot of food. I like food. I'm exposed to a lot of nature and bugs and flowers and greenery because I live in a really rural area and I go for a walk every day with my dog, and there are bugs and snails and ladybirds and just things to look at. I guess like not everybody is looking at those things when they go out for a walk, I guess, but I don't know, I'm just interested in those things, and therefore those are the things that I draw. So I don't know if that's a very good answer to the question, but it's an answer, so we'll go with it. How has your style developed over the years? I love this question so much because my style, in fact, I pulled up some pictures of how my style has developed. Now, I've always done digital art. Until very recently, I never really picked up a pencil or a paintbrush, and the whole reason I got into drawing was because at the time I fancied myself as a bit of a graphic designer slash printer. I was doing logos and business cards for people, and when I say at the time, this was a very short period of time, over like a couple of months. I was already selling on Etsy, and I was in some Etsy Facebook groups, and I could see there were people in there like looking for logo design, looking for business cards and whatnot, and I just decided to have a go at that and see what happened. Don't have any formal training in like graphic design or art and design, anything like that. I just have had Photoshop since I was like 14, 15 probably, and just liked doing stuff on Photoshop. I started out editing, really poorly by the way, editing photos of me and my friends and putting little graphics behind them and cutting out the background, and I don't know, like that's how I started out doing that. But my first ever digital drawing was a flamingo, and I did this and I was like so flabbergasted at how well it came out. I'm pretty sure I traced this flamingo, I'm not going to lie about that. I'm pretty sure I traced the outline of the flamingo, but I did all the like colouring in myself, and I was going for some kind of like painterly style. I didn't know that at the time. I was just making marks on the screen and hoping for the best. But yeah, that's like one of my first ever digital illustrations, and I put it on a mug and nobody bought it, and I thought, well, I suck at this, so I didn't really do much else with that for, I don't know, quite a long time. I dabbled in a few different things. So from like the start of me, I've always had like a bit of a side hustle, side business thing going on since forever. So I think my first ever business was a jewellery making thing. And the reason I got into this is because I discovered the jewellery channel on Freeview. I can't recall what it was called now, but it was one of those channels where like they sell jewellery, and it's like those reverse auction things where it starts off at like, this piece of jewellery is worth £500, and then by the end of it you're paying like 25 quid for it, and it feels like you've got a bargain even though you haven't, because it was never worth £500 in the first place. It was one of those channels. My nana would watch those channels, and she liked a bit of QVC also. So for some reason I'd seen those channels at her house and then just decided that was my life now. I was going to watch those channels as well in my spare time. And I happened to try and put it on early in the morning, and there was a segment on this channel which was a jewellery maker segment. I think they now actually have their own channel, but I started buying like beads and silver and stuff from them and making this jewellery. Again, like I did a lot of jewellery making and I didn't really sell anything. I was not a good business person. This was just like a bit of a side thing. But that's how I kind of started out, just like doing things for myself. But the thing I loved most about doing that job, even though it wasn't really a job, was the graphic design. And I spent way more time tweaking my logo and building a website than I did actually promoting any jewellery. Like, there were certain aspects of this I liked more than others. And from there, I had a baby, stopped doing my business, and I just was full-time mum. That was my job, my life. And I got to, I want to say 3 or 4 years after I had my first baby, I got a bit bored, if I'm honest, and I just started making stuff. I was making all kinds of things, like nursery decor, all kinds of home decor. I feel like this was in like the early days of like Pinterest as well, so there were lots of like ideas for things that you could make on Pinterest. So I was just making like anything and everything. Mostly wood signs. I did a lot of wood signs with like vinyl graphics on them. Then I decided to like switch it up to just wedding stuff. And that's kind of what I did. Just wedding stuff. But before I got to that point of doing just wedding stuff, I was dabbling in all kinds of art and design type stuff, really, because I was doing wood signs and prints, and some of those were like typography type designs. I did some drawing. I also opened another little side business called Bawdy Thoughts, which was actually, when I look back at it, quite similar to what I do now. They were illustrated greeting cards with like rude kind of tongue-in-cheek puns on them. The design style for those was quite similar to the greeting cards that I do now, but I just didn't dedicate enough time to it for it to actually like take off and do anything. And the wedding side of my business was like doing a lot more. So that's where I ended up. I ended up at some point a full-time wedding person. I did signs and stationery. So this is a long answer to how my style has developed over the years. I guess what I'm saying is I've always dabbled in some kind of design work, and quite honestly it was mostly graphic design. I kind of did a few drawings here and there, and once I decided that I wasn't going to make the greeting cards anymore, I wasn't doing my own artwork. I was using like stock graphics and not clip art, because it wasn't that kind of, it was mostly typography, to be quite honest, but I kind of just didn't draw within that time. And I think because I'd done some drawings previously that like it didn't really take off, so I was kind of like, oh, I must be really bad at this. Then COVID happened, so COVID just completely destroyed my little wedding business that I had going on, because there were no weddings happening and lots of my customers wanted refunds, even though it wasn't my fault that their weddings were not taking place anymore. And these were all personalised items as well, so they would have like names and dates on them, and I didn't have to refund those because they were personalised, but I felt so guilty for the people who like had lost out on their dream wedding that I ended up just refunding anybody who asked for one, and I was in the hole. That completely destroyed that, and we kind of had to go into the whole home education thing, which I didn't have time for both. I didn't have time to home educate my kids and try and run a business at the same time. So I just decided we're just going to put a stop to this, and I will just worry about the kids, and that's that. And then I didn't do any kind of artwork it took me a good couple of years after COVID to really like figure out what the heck I was going to do with my life. And I just started drawing again. I started doing kind of like tattoo style line work designs, and I was putting them on Etsy under like a secret name, because I was like, I don't want anyone to know that I'm doing this in case it goes horribly wrong, because I am the kind of person that has like flitted from one thing to another my entire life. It's just who I am. It's just what I do. So I kind of didn't want people to look at what I was doing and be like, oh, she's doing another thing. So I just did it quietly and realised that actually I was okay at it, and actually I could draw stuff. That was a talent I apparently didn't know I had. And then from there I kind of went into doing more kind of cutesy colour illustrations, and yeah, honestly my style is still developing. I think like I feel like that's a constant when you do any kind of art, especially when you see what other people are doing as well. And I'm not saying like I'm going out copying other people, that's not the case here, but I watch a lot of other people do art and I'm seeing their techniques and going, oh, that's really cool, okay, so maybe I could use that in something that I'm doing. And I feel like your style is always developing based on what you are exposed to. And if you're exposing yourself to lots of different artists, which quite honestly I am, you kind of see little things that they do, and your style becomes an amalgamation of all those little things that you've taken from all those other artists that have come before you. I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that. I don't know, some people might think that that's terrible, like, oh my god, you're just copying other people. But I don't think that's it. Like, inspiration builds on inspiration. That the person that you are inspired by has been inspired by somebody else, and somebody else before them, and somebody else before them. And that's kind of how art evolves, I guess. Yeah, my style has changed massively. I will say that I feel like there's been a bit of a shift recently as well, when I started the Paint the Alphabet series, which I have not finished, by the way, and I don't know if I'm going to come back to, but that's like a whole other video. When I started the Paint the Alphabet series on Instagram and started experimenting with gouache and like seeing what my artwork could look like in traditional media, I feel like that has had a huge impact on my digital media, because I am seeing things differently, and like figuring out how to use the gouache has really impacted how I can do things digitally as well. I think in my mind there was a very rigid structure to the way that I needed to do my digital art, and that consisted of line art, base colour, shadow, highlight, and some very fine details. Those were the 5 steps I went through for every single thing. And I think using the gouache really helped me be more fluid in that process, that actually it doesn't have to be done a certain way. And if you, like, a lot of my illustrations are based on three tones. You have the shadow, the mid colour and the highlight, and that's it. And using the gouache really kind of made me realise, no, you can add more. And the more tones you have in there, the more depth you're going to get in the image. I don't know, I just feel like it really made me take a leap. I wasn't expecting that to happen. I just wanted to play with paint, if I'm quite honest. I just wanted to have a go, because I was seeing other people on YouTube painting with gouache. Like, quite honestly, I watched painting videos every single night because I have a crazy brain. And if I lay down and try and go to sleep, my anxiety will just take over, and I can't be dealing with it because it's just too much. So I will put a video on and fall asleep to a video. Is that a healthy way to live your life? I'm not entirely sure. But does it stop me from going crazy? Yes, it does. So we're going to continue with that for the sake of maintaining sanity. My art style has massively changed over the years and still continues to change and develop. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Some of these answers are really, really long also. I'm very sorry. I'm just a bit chatty. Okay, I'm just a bit chatty. What's the next? Next question. How did you get into making your packaging so much fun, and how do you brainstorm ideas for them? Amazing question. I got into packaging being fun by accident, as I have gotten into any situation that I found myself in life, by accident. I can't recall why I did the first ever goodie box. Well, it wasn't a goodie box then, it was a goodie bag. Can't remember what made me do it. I think I'd seen a video on YouTube of somebody making a little gift. I don't know what it was. It was a gift bag of some description, but it looked like a tiny crisp packet. I watched the way they did it, and they used the same paper crimper that I'm currently still using, and they had a set of pinking shears, and they just made it was adorable. It was so cute. And I kind of think that was what started the whole thing off, because I then thought, well, I could make a product that looks like a crisp packet. That would be fun. But I made it on an actual crisp packet scale. So I did the first ever goodie bag, which was the Don't Go Bacon My Heart goodie bag, which was a pig themed one with kind of like a Valentine's Day theme to it. And that was the first one, and I think I really just wanted to have a go at making a crisp packet, if I'm quite honest. That was in the January, and in the December I'd done a 12 Days of Christmas box, which was essentially a bought-in like cardboard box filled with those same little packets that had different stickers and stuff in them, all Christmas themed, that you would open at 12 points throughout December. That was kind of the very, very start of it, but that packaging wasn't quite as much fun as the ones I've done since then. But the crisp packet one was like the first one that I was like, I can make something that looks like something it isn't. And then from there, I just rolled with that theme of let's make things that look like things that they're not. And it just kind of escalated in that same way that I was saying before, inspiration builds on inspiration. It's been the same thing. I've kind of done one thing and then gone, oh, well, next time I could do blah, blah, blah. And it builds and builds and builds. I'm even thinking it now because the tea and biscuits goodie box that I have done most recently, I rediscovered a new technique which I'd completely forgotten about. I thought to myself, I don't know how to do a round box. I'm gonna hop on YouTube and see if there are any tutorials. And lo and behold, there were like hundreds of them. And these were for like small little gift boxes. And I'm like, I could just scale that up. I can just scale that up and decorate it in a way that looks like a biscuit. But as I was watching this video, I realised I've done this technique before. Not for a goodie box. This was a long time ago. We were having a party for my birthday and we did a Mexican themed dinner. And I made tiny little piñatas for everybody's place card. I'm a little bit extra sometimes, okay? Like I was throwing a party and I wanted it to be like on theme. That's another thing that really influences my goodie boxes, I think. I love an on theme thing. I love a cosplay. I love a fancy dress. I love, I don't know, I just like themes for things. That was very Italian of me. I'm not Italian. I have no Italian heritage whatsoever, but apparently, whatever. I love a theme. So that's also part of it. But I realised as I was doing this goodie box that I have done this before and I've made these tiny little piñatas. And that felt a bit like a full circle moment, really. Like, oh, back then I was deep into my wedding business. I had no idea that I would be making cardboard goodie boxes for packaging. And yet there I was all those years ago making 12 tiny little piñatas for all my friends. I don't know. Maybe there's something in that. Who knows? My word of the year for the year that I started the goodie boxes was fun. So I just wanted to make these boxes as fun as possible. And I kind of am a little bit inspired by kids' toys and blind bags. And for me, those things feel nostalgic. When I was a kid, we didn't have those kind of things on the scale that kids have them now. We didn't have LOL Surprise and I don't even know what else. They're everything comes in a blind bag now. You've got the Miniverse series, so you've got the mini brands, the Make It Mini. These are things that my kids are collecting now, but it kind of felt nostalgic to me and reminded me of Pokemon cards, that you would go and you would get your pack of Pokemon cards and you didn't know what you were going to get and it was fun. And that is an element I really wanted to bring into the goodie boxes. I really wanted them to be fun. And for me, part of that fun is it being a kind of a theme and really going into that theme, but also something with a twist, with a bit of a surprise that works in a way you didn't expect it to, or looks like something you didn't expect. Or I think one of my favourite ones that I've done is the Cozy Gamer goodie box, where the screen on the front of the box was actually a sticker and you could peel that off from the inside and you could use that as an actual sticker. It's a fully functioning sticker. Those little elements, those little surprises that I just think they're joyful. They just are a lot of fun for me, so I just like to put them in there. I've forgotten what the original question actually was. I'm rambling. How did I get into making them? So that's kind of how I got into making them, completely by accident and just because I wanted to have a go. And brainstorming ideas for them, that's a really good question. I don't have a set in stone process for this, I don't think. I kind of will have an idea, or I will see something that I think is funny and we'll run with that. Pinterest is a great source of inspiration for me, to be quite honest. If I'm looking for certain themes, I will just type in those things. So for the tea and biscuits goodie box, I just typed in tea and biscuits and just see what comes up. I think Pinterest is great for me because it's visual and it's got a certain aesthetic. Yeah, an aesthetically pleasing visual tool. It's not the same as typing something into Google Images. If you type something into Google Images, you're just going to get a lot of images, but they don't have that kind of, I don't really know what to call it. There's this just kind of finesse of the images on Pinterest. They have a certain aesthetic, they have a certain look about them. That said, Pinterest has not been so good of late because there are a lot of AI generated images on there now. So I do feel like I'm using it less recently, but that is one of the tools I've used to kind of find inspiration and figure out the themes to the things I'm going to do. I've had a couple of questions about my kids actually, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to actually address this or not, because I don't know. I don't really need to address it. I could just not answer those questions. But I do have kids, and people ask me questions about my kids, and I feel not comfortable answering those questions on the internet. It's one thing for me to put myself on the internet, and it's sometimes can be a bit of a weird situation to be in, because people know me to some degree. Like they know me, and I may not have any idea who they are. It's kind of a weird. It's a bit of a weird dynamic, and it's a weird dynamic for me to put myself in, but I understand the risks of doing that, and I'm old enough to make a personal decision for myself what I share online about myself. The reason I don't really mention anything about my kids is because that's not for me to mention. I feel like it's not my decision to make to give out information about them. That's a decision for them to make when they are of an age to be able to make that decision safely and fully understand the risks. So while I appreciate the questions, that's the reason that I don't and won't answer those questions. And that's just kind of like a personal boundary for me. And yeah, I felt like I should just mention it and address it, because I have had questions on more than one occasion about the kids, and I don't want people to think I'm just ignoring that when I don't answer those questions, but that is the reason why. One or two more questions. Do you have any hobbies that you like to let out your creative side? Oh my god, so many. I like to crochet. I'm currently in a phase of crocheting bags. So I've crocheted a chicken bag. I also have a bread bag and a strawberry bag, which I just finished yesterday. So I like to crochet. I have some crochet creations in the office also. I crocheted this little frog, and there are some other things up on the shelves which I have crocheted. So that's one thing I like to do. I also really like clay. I don't do it as often as I'd maybe like to, but I do like some clay work. So I've never done like ceramics or anything like that, but I do like some air dry clay, and I've got a few little pots around the house that I've made, and just some like odd little clay things. I really just like arts and crafts, to be honest. Like, if there's anything creative, I will be doing it, and if I can make something rather than buy something, I will do that. I'm also really enjoying growing things at the moment. Whether or not this will last, I don't know, but I think growing the pumpkins from seed has been quite a lot of fun, and I also feel like that's a creative process. I've also got some borage growing in the garden right now, which I've just found out is completely edible. So I've been picking the flowers and putting them into ice cubes because they look pretty. I have decided that I will be a borage farmer from now on. I suppose that's another little creative hobby. Yeah, there are lots of things that I just like making things, and not everything I want to be a monetizing endeavor. Like, not everything I make I want to put in my shop, especially crochet, because the thought of having to crochet the same thing more than once literally makes me want to throw up. Like, if I can even make it to the end of the pattern, then that's a miracle in and of itself, and I've done it once and I will never do it again. But yeah, I do have a lot of creative, I don't want to say skill, maybe they are skills. I guess they are skills, but I just have a creative brain. I mean, last year I fashioned myself a hobbit for the top of my Christmas tree because I had a star and I really wanted an angel, but I couldn't find one that I really liked. And I thought, what better kind of angel than a hobbit? Because quite honestly, they are an angelic creature. So yeah, I decided I would fashion myself a Samwise Gamgee for the top of the Christmas tree. But as I was going along, he looked more like Merry, so I decided his name would be Merry Christmas. He's my hobbit on the top of my Christmas tree. So yes, I do have like a fair amount of creative hobbies that I just like to do, but it's not necessarily always the same thing. I do crochet, but I also do clay and painting and gluing and sticking and papercraft and all the things. Yeah, I can't really pin it down to just one thing. The only other creative hobby that I have that is like a hard and fast one thing. Is it a creative hobby? I guess it is, because it's music, and music is creative. I play the violin as well, so that's my other thing that I do. For me, these are different types of hobbies. The creative craft and stuff is what's the word? A productive hobby. That's what I'm trying to say. That's a productive hobby. I want to do something. The music for me is more of I need to switch off. I need to switch off, so where is my instrument? Get me my sheet music, and my brain needs to stop thinking, because when I'm reading and playing music, nothing else is going on in here, which is excellent for me, because that never happens. There is always something going on in here, except for when I'm doing music. So that is like an absolute win for my mental health. But yeah, those two kind of sides of my hobbies are different. One is definitely like a productive hobby. The other is more of a meditative hobby, I guess, in a way, if that even makes sense. I don't even know. Hopefully that answers the question. And I think the reason I do the work and the job that I do is because I couldn't function in a normal working environment, because I do have this creative energy and it has to be on the go all the time. I don't know how to switch it off. I'm actually trained as a hairdresser. That's like my profession. I'm no good at it. Like, don't ever ask me to cut your hair unless you want a terrible haircut. But my formal training that I actually have a certificate for is in hairdressing. I wanted to do graphic design, and none of my friends were going to that college. So I wasn't going to go to a college all on my own. Like, am I crazy? So I decided that I would go to the same college as the rest of my friends. Let's do that together, because I don't really know. She dropped out within like 2 weeks and went and did art and design. I should have followed her. In hindsight. I should have just done that, and I would have thrived there, and I would have stayed there. But never mind. I felt like I've started this now. I can't leave. So I did 3 years of hairdressing training. Didn't really love it. Didn't really have a passion for it. Just was kind of like, well, this is what I've gotten myself into now. And then I got a job as a hairdresser once I was qualified. I had a mental breakdown because I couldn't cope with the pressure, so that was fun. For people, their hair is very important to them, so like that is a lot of pressure to like not mess it up, especially when you feel like you don't know what you're doing. And also, I struggled so bad with the social side of this. Like, part of the hairdresser experience for a lot of people is going and having a chat with the hairdresser. And I proved at Stationery Fest that you put me in front of a real life person and I just don't know what to say or do. So that awkwardness probably exacerbated the kind of whole pressure situation, led to a mental breakdown, and I never went back to that job. I was signed off sick for 6 weeks and then went, do you know what? I'm just going to leave, because the thought of coming back just fills me with terror. I could never work a 9 to 5 in an office. I've also discovered I could never work in an environment with other people, because I'm just far too distracted, that I just wouldn't get anything done. The only reason I get anything done is because I work by myself in silence with no one or no thing to distract me. And I can get a lot done that way. I can be quite productive. I've forgotten why I started talking about this in the first place. I can't recall. Anyway, this is going to end up being a very long video if I continue talking for much longer. The final question that was asked of me is, can we please get a studio tour? Because I've mentioned a few times that I work in a really small space, and at least one person is intrigued to see that. So I will do another video with a proper studio tour, so you can like have a good look around, and I will show you the space that I'm working in and how big it is and all that stuff. But if I do that in this video is going to be really, really long, because I've been talking for 49 minutes and 57 seconds at this point, so I should probably stop, because my tea is also cold. Freezing. I hope this was interesting and insightful, and if you do have any more questions, like, leave them in the comments, let me know. Try and respond to every single comment, unless you are a spammer trying to sell me your SEO services. I'm not interested. My YouTube is growing fine without you. Thank you. Please don't comment on my videos, and send me screenshots of my own video. It's weird. Stop it. I don't like it. If you are one of those people, your comment will get deleted, but I'm not responding to that. I don't do cold callers, okay? I say that, There was a man come and knocked at my door the other day, soliciting for gardening work. He was like, "Your front hedge needs a bit of a trim, love. Would you like me to do that?" And I was like, well, not really, but the last time this happened, this is the second time somebody has knocked on my door and said that they would like to come and trim my bush. The first time it happened, I mentioned it to Lewis and he was like, "They actually offered you a really decent price for that. You should have said yes." And I was like, "Well, I didn't, because I don't buy and sell at this store, okay?" So when it happened again, I was kind of like, well, last time Lewis did say it was a really good price, so maybe I should just do it. I'm not a good decision maker, by the way. I rely on Lewis to make almost all the decisions because I just don't know how to make a decision. And there is no kind of logical reasoning that goes into my decision making often. I don't understand how other people make decisions. I make decisions based on maybe. Okay then. That's how all my decisions go. Like, I will either give it a maybe and just not think about it ever again, or I will deliberate on it for an extremely long amount of time because I don't really know how to make the decision or what should be my thought process in making the decision. And then I will just kind of go, screw it. Yeah, okay then. So that's kind of my decision process. So I don't really, I don't make that many decisions on my own for that reason because I feel like I'm not good at it. But when the man came knocking about my front hedge, I was kind of like, yeah, okay, well, if you can do this much work for this much money, then fine. And he woke me up from a nap. I was sleeping also on the sofa. And I answered the door in a bit of a bleary-eyed state because I thought it was a parcel. And then it was a man wanting me to pay him to trim my bush. So yeah, I say I don't do cold callers, but apparently I do, and I will pay them on my driveway to do gardening work at the front of my house that I didn't necessarily want or need doing. It did need doing really, but it wasn't like a priority at that exact moment. Anyway, this has become another ramble and I'm still talking. Shut up and end the video. I hope this has been somewhat insightful and not too terrifying, because an insight into my brain probably is a little bit terrifying. Like I said earlier, if you have any more questions, leave them in the comments below and I will see you next time.